welcome to the first edition of Christy's Court on the Field of 68 Podcast Network. Make sure you subscribe. This is going to be such a fun ride, and we had to start at the very top, and I am honored to be in the presence of the one, the only Dawn Staley, the head coach at South Carolina, and also the U.S. national team head coach. The 2020 Olympics were postponed, but that's all right. That's all right. We're going to get there in 2021. Dawn Staley, we go way back. Way back.
We're not going to tell our age because
we're not going to tell our age.
Yeah.
We're certainly not. But we do go way back, and I am just honored and pleased that you are taking the time to join us today for the first edition of Christy's Court here on the Field of 68 Podcast Network. Welcome to you.
Thank you. And thank you for allowing me to start things off. Hopefully, I set the bar high and everybody has to come correct afterwards.
Well, I think that's what's going on right now in the national rankings and everything else. Number one for you all, I just think that, the way last season ended, 32 wins last year for your team, just one loss, and just the anticipation of March Madness. We'll start there. We're going to delve back into our connections, but I want to start there because that's the most current thing going on right now with you and your program. But how did you connect the momentum that you had gained at the end of last season to what you're doing now in practices and preparation?
Well, I think the most important thing when it happened, like when anything happens, you have to handle it in that moment, or else it has a tendency to linger, and it has a tendency to detract or deter you from where you're ultimately trying to go. And ultimately, we're trying to go to that same place where we were playing some of our best basketball. We were on a winning streak, but when it happened, we gave our players some space. We gave them about 2 weeks where we didn't do Zooms. We just kind of communicated with them through text messaging. And if someone wanted to FaceTime, we FaceTime. But then after that 2 weeks were up, we got on the Zoom and we just actually went into great detail of how they were feeling, their raw emotions. And a lot that came out of that was just our players wanted to do it for their seniors. Ty Harris and Kiki Herbert-Harrigan, they wanted to do it for them. And when it comes, selfishly, they could have been like, okay, this is my first tournament, my first NCAA tournament. This is all I wanted to do as a youngster, is to play in a tournament. And then some of the returners, they had experienced it already, but they hadn't experienced it at a place we were, which was number one in the country, on a 26-game win streak, to have the bottom fall out. You have to really get into where their mindsets and their hearts were at the time. And we really delved into that, and we put closure to it, because it wasn't something that was going to help us to really relive all of what just took place. It wasn't going to help us. So, new start. I think we're playing for our seniors who got robbed of an opportunity to win a national championship and compete for a national championship. So hopefully, with what we're able to do this year is to go get that title and actually bestow them with national championship rings. Hopefully we can get to that point.
No question about it. It was just mind-boggling in terms of just wondering how that would feel as a student athlete. You went to 3 Final Fours, you played in a championship game, and you were in college at the University of Virginia. And then you won the national championship in 2017 with the Gamecocks. But just for you, we're checking on these players and these student athletes. But for you, the ultimate competitor, 3 gold medals in the Olympics. Just elite level pro in the ABL and the WNBA, the top 15 in the history back in the day when they were in their 15th season. But how did you handle that? Like, who helped you? Like, you were helping the student athletes, but who was helping you through that process to get that closure?
Well, I mean, I think what helps me close that chapter is being able to help other people through it. Like it is so true. Like we have to practice what we preach. Like in a practice, like if someone's having a bad practice, and if they're not internalizing them having a bad practice, right, and kind of look outward to help somebody else, to talk to somebody else, it helps whatever pain that you're going through. It takes it off of you, and you're putting into somebody else. You're putting you're putting some fuel into somebody else. So it helps you get through it. Our coaches, we often talk about it during that time, but for us, we live for our players. We do everything. Everything is for them to make sure that they're in a great space. And for us, we're adults. We should be able to handle, some hardships. But I mean, that was hard because it's not very often that you get to that level. Like, you could actually taste it. We were playing our best basketball. We had a lead guard that was a 4-year starter for us. We had a small forward in Kiki Herbert-Harrigan that was our, enforcer. We had some younger players who just absolutely raised the level of intensity in practice. We had some other, players who just contributed. Everybody enjoyed the role that they were in. And it was just a smooth thing. It was a happy time for us. We look forward to coming into practice. We look forward to, we just enjoy each other's company. When we went on the road, whether we're at home, we just enjoyed it. And I don't know if every coach would get that feeling. And you may get that feeling minus the wins, the wins, or you got the wins and you don't get that feeling of a total togetherness. And like utopia, it was basketball utopia for us. So we know what that feels like, and we know what we did to get to that point. So with our players, we just try to get them to love up on each other like that, to work as hard as they worked in the previous year, and just try to rekindle that feeling, not necessarily, how it looked on the basketball court, but that feeling, because when you can love, you can love the people that you're standing next to, and you got talent, the basketball stuff will work itself out. And I think that's where we are right now. They're probably too nice for me. Like they're nice human beings, like really nice. And I'm just like, I often ask them, and I often ask our coaches, can this nice team win a national championship? And it's a question. I've asked other coaches, like I asked Cheryl Reeve, I'm like, Cheryl, she texts, and I always ask about our team. I was like, they're so nice. And she was like, you know what? It sounded just like the team that I had with Lindsay Whalen and Sylvia Fowles and Maya Moore. They were just so nice. Right. And she was like, and I had that same question, and she was like, somebody's got to be the a-hole. And she said it was me. It ended up being me, because you need some balance. And I find myself thinking, okay, well, I like a-holes, like really, because they don't just go with the flow. Right. You gotta fight with them a little bit to go with the flow, and that challenge, challenge of getting them to that place, we don't have that, because our players are already there. They don't look at the practice card. They just come in and like, okay, that's what we got to do. Let's do it. No questions asked. And it's a beautiful thing, but it's one that I'm not used to.
Right. Well, I tell you what, Minnesota, they won some championships with those nice players. So there's hope, you know what I mean? We're talking about it that way. Let's take it back a little bit. Let's take it back to Philly. That's where you're from, Dobbins High School in Philly. What was the main thing that got you interested in basketball in the first place? Like playing it, watching it, what was it that piqued your interest and fanned that flame inside of you that is incredible?
Well, I mean, I have to go back a little bit further from my Dobbins days. I got to go back to the housing projects where I grew up. I grew up the youngest of 5, and we all lived in this small row home in the housing projects. So if you're the youngest, you got 3 brothers, you got 1 sister, everything is competitive in the house. To making sure that no one takes your nice white socks. Cause I used to love like white socks, nice, new, kept them clean, washed them. You know, my brothers, they don't really care. They'll just take mismatched socks or whatever they could find. But, you know, it was a challenge keeping my stuff mine.
Right.
So that's where the competitiveness came from. And then, you know, once I started picking up sports, and it wasn't just basketball. I played tackle football. I played baseball. I played softball. We used to make like, we used to get some paint. We had this big field that was inside of the row homes, and we used to paint like Olympic track lines. So we used to race and compete. So my competitiveness came from growing up in the projects. And then once I started to play basketball and I started receiving letters of interest from colleges, like in the 8th grade, I knew that was pretty much my ticket to doing some incredible, sorry, that's my boy, some incredible things, you know, with basketball. And that just led me to making decisions based on basketball. Like Dobbins was the team in the 80s, the high school team in the 80s that, you know, everybody wanted to go to, but you couldn't always get in Dobbins. You had to take a test to get in Dobbins. It was a vocational technical school. So you had to have some interest in those fields that they had. And for me, it was in walking distance. I didn't want to take public transportation to school. So I wanted a place where I can walk. And that was basically the only high school that I could walk to. And they had a really good basketball program on the men's side because Hank Gathers was there. Bo Kimball was there. So it had a good basketball tradition. And I just wanted to be a part of that tradition and win city championships.
Yeah, well, that's an amazing story. Now, first of all, some people, I mean, they see us sitting here on the Zoom and they don't see what your stature is physically, right? 5'5"? We're talking 5'5"?
Oh, now 5'6". 5'6", and I got some.
Okay, I thought I was being generous with.
I got some thick heeled sneakers on right now, so I can get up to 5'8" right now.
5'6" to 5'8". I love it. I love it. You played football, basketball, baseball, whatever. So the internal engine, and I saw it firsthand. We played against each other. You were at Virginia, I was at Maryland, but we saw this fireball of a point guard who was just insane to stop, couldn't stop you. But in high school, you said you started getting recruited in the 8th grade. What was the decision maker? What weighed the scales in favor of the University of Virginia?
Yes, and I didn't know this when I was 17, 18 years old, when it was time for me to make a decision as big as a college decision. Sure. And then as I reflect on being in this position as a coach, and going out and recruiting other players who are 17, 16, 17, 18 years old, I try to tell them, whether it's coming to South Carolina or not, there's going to be something that is, I call it is non-negotiables. Okay. Non-negotiables.
I like that.
For me at that time, a non-negotiable was they couldn't have won a national championship because I wanted to be a part of that.
Okay.
And the other non-negotiable was the dorms. I wanted to go to a place that didn't have those, those traditional dorms where you share a room with the roommate. You got to take your bucket and go down the hall and shower and brush your teeth and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I went to Virginia, they had like suites. You had a roommate, but there were like 4 other rooms in this suite area. You had a common area, you had 2 showers, you had 2 toilet stalls. So I was just like, this is it for me. Like this is it. And then I only visited one other school, which was Penn State. Okay. When I visited there, they had those old dorms. And I just really couldn't see myself, because you grow up in the projects.
Right.
We're sharing one tub, one sink, one bathroom with 7 other people. I wanted some space.
Right.
So it came down to the dorms, because they both recruited me for a very long time. Yeah. And loyalty was key for me. And it was between those 2 schools that recruited me the longest.
Wow. Well, Debbie Ryan, wow, hats off to you for having the great dorms at Virginia. And
I gotta mention this. Debbie Ryan, she thought it was her incredible impersonation of the church lady. You know, the church lady was saying that, like, she thought it was that, but nah, it was the dorms.
We definitely have to let her know that. That's hilarious. Oh my God. Well, at Virginia, you know, we were 2 years apart. You know, you're 2 years younger than me. And you and Tammy Reese and, oh my gosh, the Burge twins, Lord have mercy. We had games done. I remember, I think one of the games was like in the hundreds. Wasn't it 100 and something? Yeah. Like it was like a track meet. Like we knew we had to hydrate. We're like, oh snap, we're playing Virginia. They're gonna be getting up and down the floor. I don't know if there were any free throws. Like I don't know if there were timeouts. It's just like this. Like we were in the hundreds both times. I know every time we played you guys, it was up and down the floor. And I know one memory in particular. We were at Cole at Maryland. And you came in there 5'6" to 5'8", right? I'm 6'2" or something like that. Long arms, you know what I mean? Love to block a shot if I could get to it, right? And I remember you came down the lane and I was like, oh, I'm getting this. I'm go ahead and get this one. And I went and, you know, just committed to you right there. And I remember you made this sound and I'll never forget it. It was so embarrassing for me. But I had my hands up here and you were like, ah. And went under my arm and hit one of the Burge twins for a layup. I was so mad, man. I was like, come on, man. She didn't. But you had these sounds when you played where it was like, you know, listening to Serena play tennis. Like it was like, like you just attacked with precision. And, you know, even if I know I'm not alone on that. Like I thought I had you. Like I know people thought, okay, here comes the point guard coming down deep into the paint, not just the top of the key, deep down into the lane, right? I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm competitive. I'm like, oh yep, let me go ahead and get this. And it was just like, not today. And it was just on repeat for you. Just the level of competitive fire. I already said you guys went to 3 Final Fours and a national championship. But we had some battles, you know, especially in your first 2 years when personally, you know, we had those battles with Virginia and Maryland. Like,
yeah, I didn't know though. You know, I was just a young freshman. Well, we don't say freshman. First year, second year, Virginia, we say first and second year. And you don't know what you don't know. Like for me, it was just like I love playing basketball. I don't care who I'm playing against. I looked at it as playing in the playgrounds of North Philly. But then you start understanding rivalries, you start understanding personnel, you start understanding that, hey, they got people just as good as I am. So I gotta figure out my edge. And for probably my first year, I didn't figure that out. I just played. But as time went on, the game within the game, you know, if certain people can't handle the ball, then we go full court pressure. If some people can't drive to the left and they're just right hand dominant, we're gonna force you to go left every single time. And that commitment and discipline it takes to do that is creating your edge. And creating your edge, you wanna create the advantage of winning. So,
Yeah.
those battles with Maryland helped me do that, because y'all had guards, y'all were just complete, like from top to bottom, and you had people coming off the bench, and you really had to figure it out, because it's going to be in the 90s and the hundreds. Who's going to be able to get that stop, because it comes down to a stop.
Yes.
And I just, it is those matchups that really fuel me, because you want to play against the very best. And I can remember, I don't know if you were there when we played. It was like 1 versus 2. I think either we were number 1 or y'all were number 2.
Yes,
and we were cold. Sell out, fire marshal came. It was a great game. I think we won.
You guys won. I was overseas. My mom videoed it for me and sent it to me. I was like in Italy somewhere, but it was Jessie Hicks. She was there. She was a freshman my senior year, but that was, I think, her junior or senior year. And it was like, I think Cole held 15,000, and they said there were over 17, 18,000 people outside, standing at the top of Cole, 10 people deep. Fire marshal did come and was like, excuse me, like, this is too much. But that game came down to the wire too. Wasn't it real close?
That came down to the wire. I think I fouled out. I believe I fouled out, or I was in some type of foul trouble. But it was just cool and it's cool to reminisce. Because I'm at a place right now at South Carolina where we easily get that amount. But back then, that's 30 years ago, that a women's basketball game was being attended in that manner. So, back in the ACC days, that's all we knew. That's all we knew. So, to see the evolution of women's basketball from back then till now, and the way that people are, there are some haters out there that really can't get down with women's basketball. But there are some, like, fan bases are incredibly knowledgeable about not just their team, but all of women's basketball. You have to be, if you want to win those Twitter wars on social media. You can't be just, South Carolina is number 1, so we don't want to hear anything else. No, they will break down. Our fans will break down an entire roster. We could be playing, I don't know, Idaho, which is so far away from us. They're gonna get the skinny on every single person on their roster, the coach and all of that. So I think I think sometimes it goes a little bit too far. And then I think about, hey, it's women's basketball that they know and they love it, and they want more and more and more and more. So, it's a really a beautiful thing to see that people are really into it like they are. It's not a movement, it's a lifestyle for some people.
That's right. No question about it. Yeah, that was an amazing comparison, right? Because of the time, we talk about how quickly time moves, but the similarity of the support, like the deep-rooted, genuine support has always been there in the women's game. So let's not forget that. Let's keep that in the forefront. But you at South Carolina have the G Hive, right? I know you're a huge Beyonce fan, right? When did you dress up like Beyonce for Halloween? You had the hat. And when was that? Because that was so good.
I think it was 3 years ago.
Okay.
3 years ago.
Right. So there's like the little, she has the Beehive, you have the G Hive, I saw some tweets from you recently that
last night I was hot last night. Last night I was getting it in. We need to get our numbers up. I mean, it was good when we came out with it, but now it's kind of tapered off. So we had to go roll call some people who were in it last year that hadn't signed up yet. Okay. And then in the process, I'm just like, oh, what the heck? Let me see if Beyonce would get on board with this. Let me see if I actually reached out to Plies on social media. He responded. So it was cool to make that connection with people that love women and love women's basketball.
Yeah, no doubt. I saw a tweet go out to LeBron too, talking about, I promise it'll be a great experience for you. That was like the best part of that for me to read. That was so funny. But I love that. But the interaction that you continue to have with the fans there, with your experience with USA basketball, with the 3 gold medals, and then in 2004, being the only US athlete, Dawn, to carry the flag in for the opening ceremonies.
Basketball.
Oh, for basketball. Okay.
Basketball.
Okay. That's what I thought it was.
Yeah, there is, there's an American that is the flag bearer for our US delegation.
Okay.
But I'm the only basketball. But I do think that if Sue or Diana, if they're there, and they'll probably be a captain, so they'll have to represent themselves like I had to represent myself right. in the captain's meeting. So I'm sure, I'm almost positive I'll be one of 2.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so in my mind's eye, when I saw you walking in, I was like, nothing else mattered. I was like, Dawn's carrying the flag, like for everybody. I don't care. But thanks for the clarification on that. But that was just, so beautiful. But now to be the head coach of the national team, the evolution of that, not only, your 8 years at Temple, and everyone's speculating if you were going to go back to Virginia, and all of the drama behind that, but just your total 10 toes down footprints in this game. I just want to commend you for that, number one, but the USA basketball connection as a player representing the country, and then now as a coach. I mean, you've done it as a player, winning the Player of the Year award collegiately, and now you've won it as a coach, and just that whole step to take. What has that been like for you, just to kind of step back and reflect on those 2 kinds of experiences as both a player and a coach, collegiately and on the Olympic level?
Basketball is an incredible game. It, for me, it's been the gift that keeps on giving. And I do think that my approach, like I've sacrificed a lot for the game, a lot. I didn't go to proms. I didn't do a whole lot. I missed a lot of family reunions. I missed a whole lot of family time because, I love my craft, and I actually prioritized it that way. I missed out on a lot of friends and social events because of that. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because it's given me so many experiences, like to spend more than half of my life with USA basketball, because I have ever since 1989. There are very little years in which I haven't done something for USA basketball, whether it's coach one of the younger teams, whether it be an assistant coach on the Olympic team, whether it's be on the committee for 4 years for some of the younger teams or the older teams. I have committed myself to a organization that I believe allowed me to check off a lot of lifelong dreams of mine. So it's a beautiful thing. And this game, the more experiences that you have, the more you want. Like I didn't want to be a coach ever. I didn't want to be a coach, but because I sacrificed and got into this coaching, basketball has continued to, have continued to bless me in so many ways. And to be a USA basketball player, to be a world champion player, to be an Olympic player, to be an assistant coach in the Olympic Games twice, and now to be the national team coach, it makes you aspire to be these things. I mean, I never wanted to be a coach, but yet I'm sitting here as the United States Olympic coach and will represent the United States as the first Black coach.
That's right.
in the Tokyo Games.
I love
Incredible.
I love it.
Yeah, to play, start my career in North Philly, to go to Dobbins Tech, to go on to one of the most prestigious universities in the University of Virginia, and to coach at Temple University in my hometown, to have to make the decision of leaving my hometown in Temple where I got started, so I can spread my wings out a little bit more to come to South Carolina, to learn how to lose in order for me to learn how to win and to break through to things that I've never done and always wanted to do. You know, it is the game that I've loved up on for all of my life. And it never stops. Like it never, like I ask myself and I ask the game, like, what's next? And I know it all has to do with divine intervention. All of it. I had a praying mother, a faithful mother, a mother who was grounded, a mother who was strong, a mother who prepared me for whatever life, you know, curveballs threw me. So I just really think that, and I've been placed at different places for reasons that I really didn't know. Like, you know, who would have thunk really, you know, 13 years ago that I would be in the very place that my mother, you know, was born. Like my parents were born in South Carolina, and a lot of people don't know that. And one of the reasons why I took the job was because it checked the box personally. All of my mother's siblings still live here. So I brought her down and she got a chance to, you know, rekindle some relationships, and also just live out her elder years with family. So it was incredibly cool to come back to this place. And, you know, and also, you know, the racial divide that was on our campus. Now you come to our games, I meet up with people that said they had never been on this campus because of all of the racial tension and divide. But now they come to see this Black coach take this program to the highest heights of women's basketball. And to break down those racial barriers are incredible. But I was brought here. I was placed here for a reason. And those are some of the reasons. I know winning is, you know, is what we wanted to do here, but we didn't know we were going to win in so many other areas that were a lost cause, historically speaking. So I'm proud of that. I'm truly proud that I've been a part of an era that can see Black, white, Chinese come into an arena and be on one accord. And that is to help us win basketball games and be as loud as they can to help us win basketball games. And I just think that it could be a microcosm of what we can have in our world, in our country, because we're divided. No doubt about it that we're divided. And I didn't mean to bring it here, but
take it.
All of this is, you know, creating and setting an example of what it could be like if you give people an opportunity to be successful. So, I mean,
and the voice that you provide, and the voice that, I don't want to say give permission, but because you have such a genuine, convicted voice when it comes to equality, when it comes to the racial divide, especially down there, the student athletes, the young women on your team, they see that, they hear that. And, you know, from top to bottom on your roster, you have so many different personalities of kids, right? But then when they see you standing up for what is right and what is just and what is hope for all of us, is to have the equality in the world that we want to see. How have you seen your voice empower, uplift, motivate, and encourage your student athletes on your team to speak up and speak out? Like, you clap back on Twitter, and it's just, and it's necessary. And it's, some people are saying, oh, don't say anything back. No, I think it's important that these young women are seeing that you're saying that's enough, and we're not going to be disrespected. You're going to be undefeated being disrespected in my book, because you do not tolerate it. But you're also setting that example for these youngsters between 18 and 22 who are now empowered by your strength. what do you tell them, especially the last 9 months of this pandemic, where everything has been, just overly seen? I think all of these things have happened, but now we've been able to sit down, be quiet in the home, and see everything full blown, and just reality right in the face. Like, we've always known it as an underbelly situation, but now, this summer, with everything happening, and I saw the video with your team standing as one. What does that make you feel like as a coach, and how do you continue to inspire your young women that way?
Well, I think one is it's a necessity. I think we're placed in our players' lives for a reason.
Yep.
And and sometimes the game of basketball overshadows that, but there is so much more. The game of basketball is very small. When you think about the impact and the things that you have to do to prepare your young ladies for what they're going to face when they leave our program. And we take that very seriously here at South Carolina. Did we know that we're going to be in a pandemic? No. Did we know that there was going to be so much outwardly racial divide in our country? No. Did we know where people stood, with the type of government that we have? No, none of that was known.
Right.
But what we do know is, the core values that we stand on each and every day. That's right. And that has never wavered. For me, it's never wavered. There is, I lived in a household where it was just black and white. There's no gray area. It is either right or it's wrong. There's no in between when it comes to that. So, for me and my outspokenness on where our country is, there's a right and there's a wrong in that. There's a right way. Like, I don't think our country is together. I think we're very divided. As you can see in the presidential election, divided. And for us, they're going to be our future leaders of the world. And I hope that they have recall. I do. I hope they have recall in how I approach things, because I'm not nasty. I'm not out there just cursing people out on social media. I only speak on what comes to my heart. But the hate is spewed. I can like somebody. Kamala Harris is the first black vice president that we've ever had. Yes. And she looks like me. Okay.
Right.
She dances like me. Right. She wears Converses like me. So, come on. So if I can uplift her, and if I can be proud that she is Madam Vice President, right? If I can be proud of that outwardly, I'm going to do that, because she's the first, and she'll say it, she's not the last. I'm the first Black female head coach here in South Carolina. One of two Black coaches. One is a male that coaches our track team. Wow. So I feel that. I really feel, that. And this is just here at the University of South Carolina. She is the vice president of, the free world. So, if I tweet something like that, you should hear or see some of the stuff that comes out. I didn't demean anybody. No. I didn't say anything. I'm just saying that I'm proud of this person, just like you're proud of whoever you're proud of. So exactly. I'm going to speak out on my truth. I'm going to lean on my truth, and my truth may be a little bit different than other people, but for me, I'm going to use my 280 characters on Twitter the way I want to use them, and nobody's going to tell me otherwise, because we live in a free country, and I hope it stays free. But our players, I have a duty to allow them to use their voices and use it in a way that that is powerful. Not the old, I tweet once and I get pushback and let me just go back and out. No, you have to arm yourself with knowledge. If you're going to speak out and use your voice, use it knowing that somebody is going to push back and they're not going to like what you're going to say. And you have to arm yourself if you want to get in this game, of battling people out there and standing up for what you think is right. Arm yourself with as much knowledge as possible. So, so you can stand on your voice.
That's right. And, we're standing on the shoulders of our parents. My parents marched, I marched this summer with my 3 teenagers. So I'm like this in between, this gap, but it's just so powerful and you're not demeaning. And I just want to clarify this as well, because I think Black women, I feel we are labeled as angry when we are passionate about something. And there's a clear difference in what those two emotions are. Are we frustrated? Absolutely. But there's a passion behind the frustration rather than us just merely being angry. So let's clarify that piece, because I coach high school. I coach college for, as an assistant for a minute, but then with the babies and everything, but it's not about me. But anyway, but coaching, I'm long armed, I'm animated, but you don't know what I'm saying. I could be saying, way to go. But somebody across the way, look at her, she's angry. No, I'm not angry. I'm not angry. I'm passionate and I'm animated. I'm not Phil Jackson sitting and whistling. I can't do that. I have bad nerves. I got to get up. I got to move. And so do you see that too? Like what is that about when you have passion and it's immediately classified and put in a box as, oh, she's angry? What is that?
It's sexist. That's what it is. It's sexist. I mean, I'm going to be true to myself. If I feel like getting up, yelling and pointing, then I'm going to do that. If I feel like sitting there with a scowl on my face, then I'm going to do that. And I look around the country and I see all types of coaches displaying the very passionate thing that is deemed angry Black woman to some coaches. And then the pictures that are associated with headlines that is so wrong. Yeah, it is so wrong. But give Black women an opportunity and watch and see what they do with it. Like I'm super proud that I'm in a conference, the SEC, that has 7 Black women. Yes. And then there are 7 white mixture of men and women. Like there is and we're successful. And we are proud to be a part of a place in which it is the most diverse conference in the country when it comes to women's basketball. And I think those opportunities came because Nikki, I think Nikki was in the conference before me or not. Nikki Caldwell, Nikki Farr. Yes. So I don't know if she was here before me, but I know that because of her and because of me, other Black female coaches were being hired because of the job, the successful job that we've done at our respective universities. So I just think I just need other people to see that when you give, and poor Black men, they aren't going to get opportunities to be the head coach. They aren't. They just aren't going to. I don't know why, but they're the voiceless, and I have to give a voice to those people who aren't able to say anything, because the moment they say anything is, it is, you're not treated unfairly. You have to be blind not to see that Black people of all ages, of all sexes, are genders are treated unfairly. Right. This country was based on that. And I really don't want to go here, but it is. Look and see how many Black people are amongst the 1% in this country. Look at how many, like the banking industry if you go do some research, we're like 5% of all bankers, and that is $1 billion business.
Right.
So don't tell me that we aren't treated unfairly. So give us an opportunity, and we're going to be able to pivot. We're going to be able to be as successful as any other person that's given that opportunity. Now, give it to us, and don't move the goalpost on us. Give it to us like you give somebody else an opportunity, and watch us. But if you do move the goalpost, we're prepared for that too, because that's all we had to deal with for all our lives.
That's right. No, we know what that experience is. That's such a great picture. I appreciate that perspective. I know you said earlier, I know we're gonna wind up here a little bit, but I just wanted to take it back to what you said a little bit earlier about you never wanted to coach, right? But you did walk in to Temple to take a quick look. You were playing in the WNBA at the time, right? And it was Dave O'Brien, the AD at Temple, who said, I know you're in town for a little bit, just come by. And it turned out to be an actual interview. Was that how it was? Like, was it a shock, or what was that like? You walked in and everybody's at the round table and you're like, hold up.
You have to understand, like, I had never been on a job interview, like never in my life. So I didn't even know what that was. I mean, I've only played basketball. When I did go in, because the Final Four was in Philly during that time, and then the USA basketball team, we were going to play an exhibition game at the Final Four. So he just, after me telling him no, a number of times, he's like, oh, okay, you're going to be here. Why don't you come over and, sit down with me? And it's my hometown. I grew up watching Temple. Right. So I just thought it was, it was the polite thing to do, is to go sit down and talk to him. And he asked me 2 questions. And he's just like, can you lead? And I'm like, looking around like, he's talking to me like, I mean, I'm the captain. I'm a point guard. This is what I do.
Right.
And I just answered the question. And then he said, he was like, can you turn Temple Women's basketball program around? And I was like, I'm like, that sounds like a challenge. And I'm just like, I'm drawn to challenges. Yes, I'm drawn to. I was like, I never really looked at it like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, let me get back with you. Right. And then we just had some other small talk. He was like, you know what? Since you're here, can you walk down the hall and, meet some people? I'm here, so let me just go. So he walks me into this conference room, and there are like 10 to 12 people sitting around this conference table. He sits me at the head of the table, and then they started firing questions at me.
Oh boy!
And I didn't know that was their hiring committee, their search committee.
Oh my goodness!
Asking me these questions, and I'm like, basically, I'm answering them like, I got a job. I don't need this job, so let me be as frank as possible.
Right.
And they were like, where you see yourself in 5 years? I'm like, playing in the WNBA. Yeah. And they were like, don't you see, yourself more like Coach Chaney, who's coaching and he, making an impact? I was like, no, I really don't. Like, not answering like I really wanted the job. They like that. They liked that I was frank and open and honest with them. And needless to say, I took the job like 2 weeks later. And it was the best decision that I've ever made in my life. The best. Because I think I get probably, and I know our players get a lot of satisfaction with playing for our coaching staff, but man, the satisfaction I get coaching them and growing with them and being in this game. It's my 21st year being a coach. And the relationships and the friendships that have grown from that, just from my former players, is feeling like it's so fulfilling to have that and to know that. I know when I grow old, I got a lot of kids that's not kids, they'll be grown-ups by then, but they're gonna take care of me. I know that.
That's right. Oh, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And these South Carolina kids as well, like you have just created so much success, and it culminated with you being inducted not only into the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame, but into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame as well. And that speech, to me, I watch every single one of those ceremonies. That speech to me was the all-time best. And I'm not just saying that because you're sitting here. I would say it if anybody else was sitting there, and just say Dawn Staley's speech was the absolute best, because you reached back to Philly. You reached back and thanked everyone who impacted you along the way. It's not like you just arrived, it's like you had a process. And I think it's so important for all of us to see that, success is not linear. Like success is a work in progress. Like you have to continue to move, and you have just serpentined your way to success in whatever you have done. And I remember we were on a panel on BET. I don't know if you remember this, but this was right before, I believe, the 96 Olympics. And it was David Stern. It was you, and there was somebody else with us, and I can't remember. It was 4 of us. And we were on this panel, and you were talking about how the WNBA was going to be so successful and how it was very necessary. And you were in the ABL before that and all, but just the impact of that 96 Olympic team, Dawn, and how that kind of molded and spearheaded the WNBA to be what it is today. And not just as a basketball league in terms of X's and O's, but a league that is standing in the forefront of equality. The new CBA, it's like 43% of their salaries were bumped up because these women are empowered by what you did initially, not just with USA Basketball, but also in the early years of the league. And I just want to kind of end on this notion of where the game is going, not just on the collegiate level, but also on the professional level, and not just on the court, but the impact that student athletes on the collegiate level and professional athletes worldwide, because a lot of them go WNBA and they go overseas to play. So there are so many connections, and we saw all the marches worldwide. So there's clearly an issue, but the WNBA has really been, like I said, in the forefront of making things right and making people aware of what is right and what equality really is.
And I have to go back to our earlier conversation with when you give women an opportunity, like David Stern, Val Ackerman, they gave women an opportunity back in 1996 to start a pro basketball league.
Yes.
And I know the only thing that they were thinking about was starting a pro league to play basketball, to allow women to play during the peaks of their career. Right. And I don't think they were really thinking about the impact, the overall impact of when you get women in a room, women in a place of unity.
Yes.
I don't think they were thinking about the power behind that. Like, as you can see, they're more than basketball players. They're mothers. They have different experiences throughout their lives. They care about what's happening in our society, and they're united. So where do I think the WNBA is going? I think the WNBA is going to be around for a very long time. Yes. I think we've surpassed the time in which they thought it was going to stick. There are people who really and it hasn't really reached its peak yet. Right. Because anything that's new, you get it off, it's going to be a bang. The novelty wears off, and then you plateau a little bit. But I do believe that at the rate that we're going, there's going to be another step, and the CBA is one of them.
Yes.
The leadership is going to continue to get better with just forward-thinking people. Yes. Who are going to tap into some other areas in which appreciate women's basketball.
Right.
And the talent is there. Like, you know, take for instance, Asia Wilson.
Yeah.
The WNBA, the WNBA was when she was 2 or 3 years old.
Mm,
Like, she's only known the WNBA.
exactly.
Like the
Mhm.
players that we currently have.
Yeah.
The WNBA has been around longer than they were born.
Right.
So
Right.
now they have a passion. Like, they're learning things in college, and then they're going to take it on to the pro game, basketball wise, um, socially, they're taking these things, and they are advancing a mass of people.
Right.
And then that mass of people will grow, and hopefully it will grow into, our leaders,
Yeah.
our leaders in sports, our leaders in politics, our leaders in, Fortune 500 companies. And then the game is going to continue to grow in that manner. So I take my hat off to the WNBA players who so unapologetically fought and continue to fight
Mhm.
as a unit, as
Yes.
a because some people can say, no, I'm not with that, I'm not supporting that, I'm not doing that, I'm not. You could have had some people that said that, and it could have been it, but they held hands, and the stoppage to play, all of that was,
Yeah.
an incredible movement
Hmm.
that continues. So I do think the WNBA is going to be around for a very long time, and I hope when they lay me down 6 feet under, that we'll continue to have um open up doors for young girls to dream big and realize those dreams.
Yeah, no question. And just to close out and kind of reiterate where your team stands right now, which is in first place in not only the SEC, but also nationally. And you have two All-Americans on your team leading you this season, and Leah Boston and Zia Cook. And for the fifth time in 7 seasons in the SEC, you all have been picked to win the title in the conference. But this mix of players, and I know you had great leaders last year and we alluded to that, but you have so many fantastic pieces to work with on a daily basis. And you said you get excited, or you got excited going into practices, but we've seen that same excitement this year with you doing a lot of the throwbacks, all the music and everything. So it's definitely your playlist, which we love. But this season, what do you want for this team? And not just where you're going to end up, but just what do you want for this team in terms of the approach you want this team to take daily, and for what you want for them mentally, physically, and spiritually to take from their experience of this season?
Well, one, I want our team to actually play a season, a complete season, whether
Yes.
that's, whatever that is. The NCAA says you got to play at least 13 games. You could play the most 25 games. I want us to be able to play between 13 and 25 games. That's one. I want us to have an NCAA tournament. Ultimately, I want the pandemic to end, because it's impacting, lives. I mean, we play the game, and the game's going to be here when this pandemic is over. We want to ensure that the people are here to watch the game, and
Right.
we're losing people left and right. But I want our players to learn how to compartmentalize, to deal with this pandemic in a way that everybody else is dealing with it, which is, there's a time and place. There's a time and place. When you're outside the basketball court, have at it. Have at it. That's 23 hours that you're outside of it, and you deal with it and you pivot. But when you're between those lines, block everything out. It's your
That's right.
safe haven. It's the very thing that will allow you to that space
Yep.
to sweat, to compete, to work on your craft, and give it all you got. Outside of that, do your work, and normalize yourself as much as possible. Do normal stuff um,
Yes.
when it's time to do normal stuff, because if you just let it um, overtake you, it's a sad thing when you really think about it. So I want them to be able to express themselves through basketball like they've come to accustomed to doing, and do it the safest way possible. And I just want them to be able to compete in the NCAA tournament, because it's something that they long for as youngsters, and to not be able to do it again is another year. It's not wasted, but it's another year that they aren't able to live out their dream. And we don't want to be, we want them to chase their dreams, and we want them to know that their dreams can come true. We just have to navigate a little bit differently.
Right. No, I love that. And what is the word that you give your team? Like, is there one word or a phrase that you are going to hold on to this season to motivate your players?
Well, I mean, I really don't have a word, but the thing that comes to mind that everybody has to do nowadays is pivot. You're going to have to learn to pivot. The narrative is ever changing, so you got to change with it, but also just maintain who you are, maintain your core values and your core principles, and see this thing through. Because here's where we know where people stand and who are the strongest is when, the most adverse times. Here we are. And I know I got a good group of players who, have they dealt with COVID personally? Yes. But they prayed through it. They prayed through it. Yes. And they've been faithful through it. So, for us, we are faithful. We are praying people that we're protected, and also the people who are most vulnerable are protected in a way, because it is bigger than basketball, and hopefully we can get back to normal, a new normal, but normal where we're not fighting for our lives every single day every single day.
I know it. Well, God bless you. You know what? I love you like a sister. Every time I see you, I always have to wave at you because, we share experiences playing against each other and whatnot. But I just want you to know that, you're not only inspiring the youth, you're inspiring all of us. And it's so very vitally important that we see you, that we hear you, that you are representing more than just South Carolina. And I know you said that Kamala Harris is representing the United States. You're representing all of us in so many fantastic ways that you may not even understand. But I just have the utmost respect for you and what you are continuing to do in the game, and respect the sacrifices that you've made along the way. And they're not unseen. And they are incredibly respected by not just me, but, by Carolyn Peck, who gave you a snippet of the net when you shared that moment with her, when you cut down the nets with South Carolina for the national championship in 2017. And now, it's being passed down, even though people don't have the physical piece of the net. Everybody, Dawn, has a piece of that netless that you said that net was. You carried it around. And I mean, people are watching and people are inspired. And I just want to thank you for joining us today for the very first, because you're in first place in the SEC and nationally, and you're the national coach of the year, and you're the head coach of the U.S. national team. Okay, anyway, so all these first. But we are definitely honored and blessed to have your presence representing Christy's court in the first session of many, as we continue to have a platform for women's basketball and continue to provide insight, motivation, and encouragement for all who listen and watch. So make sure you subscribe to the Field of 68 Network. That's where you will find us moving forward. But I cannot tell you how full of joy I am sharing this space with you. And I purposely sat like right by the uniform because I wear some red, but just super competitive. But I love you so much and appreciate all that you are continuing to do. And it just means so much to so many.
Thank you, Christy. I appreciate it.